Again, welcome back. Time for our next session very quickly. It's time to deep dive into our next keynote address around developing. Our next keynote address, in fact, focuses on another important topic, which has got to do with, I'm so sorry, I think I'm just having a slight tech issue at my end. Kindly bear with me. Looks like this happens once in a while. Brilliant. Looks like I'm back as well. Sometimes this does happen that while we look for tech to support us, we also need sometimes a human interface to support us. Looks like I'm back, so which means it's time for our keynote address. Now we're talking about building a data-driven BFSI organization. And now we will actually be gathering perspectives from Shuja Mirza, Director, Solutions Engineering, NetApp India and SAARC. So let's deep dive into this very interesting keynote session coming your way. Here we go.
Hi, my name is Shuja Mirza, Director, Solutions Engineering for NetApp. Today, I'm going to be talking about building a data-driven BFSI organization. And let's look at what does a BFSI organization stand for today? What does it really represent? If you ask me, today it represents a lot of things. There is so much of transformation happening. And I'm not just referring to the digital transformation. I'm referring to the transformation of the business environment itself. That requires BFSI organizations to really live up to the expectation and deliver value to the customers. What it does, it puts pressure back on the IT teams to respond to that challenge. And that requires leveraging the legacy systems and at the same time adopting the modern platforms, ensuring that they can deliver a seamless experience to their users. And at the same time, grapple with the aspects of security, risk, and compliance. And the ones who do that successfully are the ones who are able to stand out and give that confidence of transactions, of transacting, and also the confidence of doing business on those platforms. Let's take a deeper dive into what are the evolving needs of a BFSI organization. Open banking, digitization, and I must say that the BFSI industry was ahead of the rest of the industries when they charted out on their journeys of digital transformation. And that, I must say, has paid off very well. I can speak for myself. Today, I find myself to be far more comfortable and at ease when I do mobile banking. And at the same time, when I do these UPI transactions, it is a big comfort that after pressing the button or approving the transaction, I can validate if the amount has reached the desired account on the other side, which was not a possibility a few years back. And I'm going to talk about how NetApp is enabling all of that as well. So be with me on that. Virtualization of workforce challenges it has brought up, and at the same time, the opportunities it has thrown open for the organization. So security was, of course, one of the key challenges. And how do we manage security when, as BFSI organizations, we are the keepers of information and we are entrusted with a lot of personal and non-personal information. But then, as an industry, we responded and we made it very, very secure for the virtualized workforce or people working from home to be able to do business very securely and go about doing day-to-day jobs very, very securely. And at the same time, for the organizations, what we ensured that they don't really have to provision those many seats in the offices. They don't have to bring everybody into the offices and get a lot better productivity from their workforce. Talking of data security, data protection, risk compliance, fraud detection, analytics, all of these have been there in the industry. But I think the relevance has changed. They have become far more relevant and have come to the fore just because of the velocity and the intensity of the cyber threats which we see in the industry today. The amount of ransomware attacks have gone up 9x in the last 2 years, and the exposure has increased at least 4x. That's what the data says. And for us as organizations, as technology providers, we have to respond to these challenges. And we have responded very, very well by ensuring that if there is an attack, if there is a breach, we provide organizations the ability to bounce back to business in matter of seconds, not minutes, not hours, in matter of seconds, so that you can continue to deliver the best of your services to your customers and maintain that superior customer experience. Cost optimization in this hyper-competitive world, will be wrong to associate that only to BFSI organizations across all industries. I think there is an imperative to drive down costs, and it is imperative that we drive down costs. What is happening, talking of costs, when it comes to infrastructure, and especially IT infrastructure, the conversation very seamlessly moves into cloud and multi-cloud deployments and adoption of clouds. And we've seen organizations who have managed the multi-cloud transition seamlessly as compared to the other. Their ability to really choose which is the best cloud to launch their service, and then launch their service with a lot of flexibility and a lot of precision, and continue to deliver that service to their users. That's the advantage of a solid multi-cloud strategy. It's not only about cost optimization, but it is also about reducing your GTM when you are launching new services and you're trying to stay ahead of the competition. AI promise has come alive in the industry for quite some time, but now when we were dependent on systems and the workforce was virtualized or was at home, chatbots, voice using NLP, sentiment analysis, I think a lot of investment has been made. Organizations are realizing the benefits of that. People who have done the right kind of training on these systems are realizing the right kind of results, and we'll see how NetApp helps with those reference architectures just to make it easier and faster for you to realize the benefits of artificial intelligence. Real-time prediction machines in hybrid cloud, adoption of blockchain have been there, but I think it has just got accelerated in the last 2 years. Moving on, let's take an example. I talked about leveraging the legacy systems, at the same time adopting the modern platforms for delivering a superior experience. This is one example, the fraud detection and management system, where we see a legacy system with, if you focus on the file system, underlying file system layer, that's where the data is. And an organization serving their users using a legacy system, trying to transform onto a very modern platform, maybe container based. But while they do so using NetApp technology, there is no need for replatforming the information assets. There is a seamless flow, or there is a seamless plug into the information or the data fabric which NetApp is providing, and they continue to very seamlessly move on to the modern platforms and deliver services, thereby ensuring that there is no disruption in the services. At the same time, many other facets of that service can be deployed on that single information asset. Hybrid cloud deployments, we talked about multi-cloud. I would like to just expand the conversation on the hybrid cloud deployments. The rate at which cloud adoption is growing, and especially the last 2 years, it is said that what the industry was expecting in the next 5 to 7 years was achieved in the last 2 years, because the industry needed to really respond to the environment, to the COVID environment, and thereby ensure that people continue to use services. And that's what led to I would say a very quick adoption and increasing the rate of adoption of cloud technologies and digital transformation. But the fact remains that today 70% of the investment is on hybrid cloud deployments. It is not just public cloud, but hybrid cloud deployments. There are data centers, virtualized data centers with cloud-like provisioning, and the ability to really move loads into the public cloud environment is what is happening as we see in the industry, transforming their data centers with cloud-like functionality, at the same time deciding or taking control in terms of choice. Where do they want to run it? Whether it is the on-prem systems or on-prem servers and storage, or they want to seamlessly move a few applications into the cloud for reasons of accessibility, availability, performance, etc., etc. And then the promise of OpEx, so that you don't have to spend upfront for launching an application and then hoping to realize the return on investment. clouds make that very, very simple for the finance professionals to see a very close alignment with consumption and the revenue you're spending around that. Now, hybrid clouds, they provide that bridge where people can seamlessly move into such models. Superior performance and availability, simple cost and efficient DR being disaster recovery. That's where we allow, or we make some of the applications listed on the screen, Oracles and SAPs of the world, very, very highly available in case something happens. Even if there is a site level disaster, we would have the ability to really move the resources over to another site or into the cloud so that you can resume your operations without being affected. Encryption, both for in-flight and at rest, it is important that we sometimes focus on encryption while it is stored in the systems in the external storage arrays, but when the data is in transit, if not encrypted, it is susceptible to getting tapped into, and there could be a leakage there. So encryption being provided by NetApp for enabling hybrid cloud deployments, and while you are replicating your data to multiple sites, all of it managed through a single console, tamper-proof data for legal hold. And if these records are and these records sometimes are used as valid proofs in a court of law, sometimes just for some sort of analytics or some sort of investigations. It's a very common use case that, and it is driven by the regulatory authorities of our country, that logs of the servers on which these transactions are happening, they have to be preserved for a certain amount of time. And that's where NetApp moves in, automates the whole log collection and storage of these logs so that you can reproduce these logs whenever any regulatory authority approaches you. Application consistent recovery points. In storage terms, I would have said snapshots, but the essence of snapshot is to be able to recover to a point in time and resume operations. Very, very integral component of our anti-ransomware strategy, where you have your snapshots. In case something happens on your production data, you can recover from your snapshots, not only from within the system, but if you can have your snapshots shipped over to a disaster recovery system or an alternate site, or even in the cloud, and recover back in case any ransomware attack happens on your environment. Accelerating dev and test by creating copies of data within seconds and then exposing them to test and development environments, accelerating your GTM, and avoid risks using compliance reports on structured and unstructured data. I'll just talk very briefly about the data protection bill, and you might have seen very lately that there have been some talks about renaming the personal data protection bill to data protection bill and stuff like that, because earlier the focus was on personal data and how we treat personal data in the country. That is taking shape, and MeitY has recommended a few things to the parliamentary committee, and that is we hope that it'll come into being very, very soon. So while all that is being discussed, there is personal data and there is non-personal data, and onus is on organizations to preserve both and protect the data, not only from unauthorized access or distribution, but also ensure that it does not leave our country, and therefore give our customers, and therefore NetApp allows our customers to enjoy the on-prem storage services in their data centers and consume it in a cloud fashion. At the same time, if they choose any hyperscaler and they want to host their data in a hyperscaler like an Azure, a Google, or an AWS, NetApp will provide very seamless data services based on the same storage operating system to run those data services within the country. Today, the hyperscalers have all those services from NetApp as part of their portfolio, as part of their first-party services, where you can store your data within the data centers which are in our country and are being run by these hyperscalers. So you enjoy the benefits of on-prem environments, data centers using NetApp technology, and when you choose to go to a hyperscaler or deploy your applications in the hyperscalers straight away, you would be able to comply to the data protection norms which are getting firmed up as we discuss. So another example, moving to conversational AI use case, I was talking about putting AI to good use and how NetApp is helping with reference architectures. Through our partnerships, we provide a reference architecture for running AI projects. And when these AI systems have to be trained, we make it very easy to create this environment in the cloud. That may not be a very permanent environment, that may be an environment which you use initially or you do your testing and training, and those are better done in cloud. So you have the ability of replicating this through cloud sync, NetApp cloud sync, into a cloud environment, train the system, achieve speech to text conversion, and then put it to good use. So whatever GPUs and storage reference architectures you had on-prem, you would have the ability of replicating the information from these into the cloud, achieve the same architecture in cloud without replatforming, without any transcription of sorts, and then seamlessly train those systems and get to your desired outcomes really quickly. I'll take you through, and this is among my last two slides, I'll take you through a bank's case study, which is using our technology. And if you see at the center, it mentions a software-defined bank. And the reason I put it from a technology view, today it's all about the software, right? So the bank is delivering a superior customer experience by ensuring that they're launching these services, software-based services for their customers, and they want to have maximum agility with whatever they're running on the floor, as well as when they try and deploy this in the cloud. So starting at the bottom left corner, next gen private cloud initiative, that's where they're using technologies from NetApp and also integrating with a lot of ecosystem partners. For example, ServiceNow, providing no conversation is complete without the automation. So ServiceNow Ansible integration right off the bat without any, these are packaged services and packaged integrations with our technology. NetApp Trident, providing a platform which offers persistent storage for container workload. And while you move these containers into a hyperscaler cloud environment, you would be able to get the same benefits, very consistent layer. So Kubernetes-based containers and our ability to provide persistent storage, do data protection, disaster recovery for your containers, and maintain continuity of services from the container environment. Get deep insights, visibility, and real-time analytics, and tying this to a ransomware attack, for example. Ransomware has got some characteristics. So, or the infrastructure exhibits some characteristics when a ransomware hits that infrastructure. Because of the encryption in progress, when ransomware attacks happen, there is an abnormality which can be seen on the infrastructure, that there is a high disk activity or there is a high memory consumption, and there is a very unusual network activity or some sort of unusual login into the system. And NetApp Cloud Insights is a tool which gives you deep insights into all of this and very proactively alerts the administrators that there is something wrong in the infrastructure. And if programmed, and if those alerts, and if you decide to program those alerts into action, it will automatically take an action like cut that setup from the external network, or shut down that virtual machine, or maybe bring something offline so that the extent of damage doesn't increase. We're doing this and supporting a lot of applications through our technology on-prem. And while we take this to the cloud, flexible and controlled public cloud solutions, it is not only our ability to create that data plane in the data centers as well as in the cloud. So data plane being the NetApp data services, whether you're running it in the data center or you want to run your application on the same data plane in the cloud, we also go ahead and get more value out of it by doing deep analytics. I talked about personal data and non-personal data. Sometimes it's very important to know whether you are having some personal PII information, for example, in your data set, and report back to the regulator. In case certain information assets contain PII and they are exposed in a wrong way to the external or an unauthorized user or an unauthorized entity, it can attract a lot of penalties. We have the ability of getting deep insights into whatever we are running on our data planes, as well as when we move or when we consume our data plane in the cloud, along with the compute. Spot by NetApp, which you see mentioned on the slide on the top left corner, allows us to reduce the cloud expense by optimizing compute as well as storage resources while you're running your operations in the cloud. Data services at the edge. In interest of time, I'll quickly go to data services at the bank's edge or branch offices. A very popular use case is to replicate whatever has been done at the branch and replicate it to the data center. NetApp ONTAP OS, the leading storage OS in the industry, can be deployed on commodity hardware, providing that seamless data service experience in the branches as well, which can then be, you can just right click and replicate all that information to a central data center, ensuring that you're meeting all sorts of compliance and regulatory requirements. So this is one of these banks which is using us in the private cloud, the public cloud, as well as delivering faster, better services from their edge deployments from their branches. A quick review of all the reasons why NetApp for financial services, a leading vendor, more than 9,000 financial services company already banked with us. And just as I click through these reasons, our Prime Minister talked about 4.2 billion transactions a day, financial transactions a day. I'm just going to mention that all those 4.2 billion transactions get authorized on NetApp systems, all flash systems, which ensure that by the time you click the button and you turn back from the shop or you're trying to send some money to someone, you get an acknowledgement as well. And that's the kind of robustness or the availability and the performance we provide to some of the largest financial institutions in the country. Our strategy, just to sum it up, is to apply our rich data-centric software innovation to help you thrive in the hybrid cloud world. Through our data fabric, we want to bring the simplicity and flexibility of cloud to the enterprise data center. At the same time, enterprise data services through the cloud. To get further details on what we just discussed and get connected, please do visit our virtual booth. Thank you for being with us and joining us, and look forward to meeting all of you in person very, very soon. Thank you.
And on that note, we come to the end of another riveting discussion, a riveting presentation rather. And ladies and gentlemen, meanwhile, as we're about to deep dive into our next panel discussion, let me also inform you that our CXO boardroom session is also beginning on the topic of how technology is revolutionizing the wealth management ecosystem. So that's also taking place in a parallel track. So those who are registered or are keen can also proceed to the parallel track. But meanwhile, as I have everybody's attention, let's also focus on the next panel discussion coming up your way on NBFCs being resilient and thriving in today's digital banking ecosystem. Now, we have with us our prolific speakers. We have with us Durga Prasad Swaminathan, Executive Vice President and Chief Information Officer, Cholamandalam. We're also joined by Nitin Bansod, Vice President, Infrastructure Engineering, Bajaj Alliance Life. Rahul Agarwal, Chief Technology Officer, Capri Global Capital. Jayesh Kumar Warrior, Vice President Sales, Induspace. Dinesh Gangwani, Chief Information Officer, Mahindra Finance. And our session moderator, someone who will be extracting all the insights from our fellow panelists. We have with us Asim Parashar, partner, PwC. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to deep dive into this very interesting panel discussion coming your way right here, right now.
Thank you.